Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing good. I saw that you wanted to. I've seen you commenting on quite a lot of my videos.
Well, believe it or not, prior to I actually just got this channel back after several years. My wife and I actually used to listen to you when you were, I guess, more conservative than you are now.
Hmm.
So when I got this channel back and I saw you pop up, I'm like, oh, and then I started hearing you, and you've changed quite a bit in the last, oh, I'd say 4 years.
Yeah, but I mean, even when I was conservative, I was still pretty atheist or at least agnostic then.
Uh,
Like, I
yeah,
mean, I
I
did
mean,
my
I
video.
honestly don't.
I know. And by the way, I'm not saying like you need to be watching all my content. That'd be weird. But back in like 2017 or so is when I did my first video on how I was like having a lot of doubts about Christianity and how I no longer really calling myself a Christian. And that was all the
Mhm.
way in 2017. I didn't leave the right until 2020.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was about 2018. I didn't know where you were uh, religious wise. I guess I didn't really pay much attention to that part of your content. I just thought you were pretty funny.
Yeah, well, thanks. I think I'm still pretty funny, but I guess that's up for interpretation.
Oh, you are. I'll give you that. I have no problem with atheists or agnostics per se, but no, I was commenting because I watched a couple of your videos as far as I guess you debate some Christians and whatnot. I would say that some of the Christians you're debating really don't know what they're talking about.
Hmm.
One in particular was I heard you talking about the word arsenokoitai and malakos. Well, you didn't mention malakos, but you didn't really know what arseno coite meant as far as homosexuality goes, and I that was kind of the first comment I had left recently
Yeah.
was about that, and
Hmm.
I believe I sent you a message on Instagram trying to just tell you what the word actually means in Greek. It comes from the Septuagint, and it means a man shall not lie with another male. It has nothing to do with pedophilia. There were three other words in Greek for that. One of which is we get the word pederast from pederastes. So
Sure. So
I
I,
just
I
wanted
will
to
actually, I will accept that and also concede that, yeah, I quite possibly was wrong about that. That is something that I used to debate a lot more, where I used to try to
yeah.
take the position that the Bible wasn't really anti-gay. I no longer take that position, actually.
Oh, okay.
So I'm willing to concede that, yes, I probably was incorrect then, and I have no problem with you pointing that out. Um, the approach
Fair
that I
enough.
usually take now is actually like, okay, fine, I will give that all to you. The Bible is anti-gay, but why? That's the next thing. Like we know that gay people nowadays, so long as the relationship is loving and consensual and legal, that those relationships can do quite well. That they are more likely to adopt kids in the foster care system and whatnot. Like I don't understand why God, if he's the ultimate morality, would then say that this thing is a grave sin if it's not doing anything harmful.
I would argue and say it does do harm. It is harmful in that you look at CDC statistics, for instance, and just HIV alone, 70% of all HIV infections are men who have sex with men. 75% of syphilis infections are men who have sex with men. So there is a harm to it. Does that mean they're all getting diseases? No, of course not.
That's not
But
even
the
really
reason God,
exclusive to gay people, though, right? That's just the type of sex that they might be engaging in. Like, if straight people engaged in anal sex, like if a married man had anal sex with his wife, she could be at the same risk, or he could be at the same risk.
not if they don't cheat. I mean, if neither one of them has a disease and they do that, they're not going to get a
Well,
disease from another.
obviously, yes. Obviously, if none of them have a disease,
Right.
fair enough. But I mean that like everybody's at the same risk. This isn't something exclusive to gay people. So like,
Well,
what if
and
what if
again,
you
I
had a
would.
gay
Sorry, go
couple
ahead.
who never? Well, what if you had a gay couple that they were virgins when they got married?
Well, I can concede it that like I said, only 70% of infections are gay men. So of course, not everyone gets it. However, if you take a look at other risk factors such as shigellosis, prolapse rectum, these are things, and yes, those things can happen to straight people as well. But if you look at the CDC, it's predominantly in the culture of men who have sex with men. And if you don't know what shigellosis is, it's a parasitical infection that they get from ingesting fecal matter.
Well,
And
yeah, of course. Like there's going to be other risks associated with that, sure, but some of that could be also associated with like lifestyle. Like why do people in this community or whatnot seem to have higher rates of this STD? Is there higher rates of promiscuity, for example? Why is that the case? A lot of this is
uh,
again, well, hold on.
if you really want to know, if you
A lot of
yeah,
this
sorry, I
is
don't mean to interrupt.
yeah, a lot of this is at least somewhat social, right? First and foremost, if we want to talk about the biological thing, you have men and men, so you have testosterone. And then on top of this, a lot of gay people, if they're discriminated against or kicked out of their homes when they're young, they're far more likely to engage in drugs or sex work or other kinds of risky behavior. That again is not exclusive or intrinsic to gay people.
Probably, but again, I mean, I travel the country. Like I said in your thing, I'm a street preacher. I'm not your typical go to church on Sunday, sing kumbaya, and be. I'm not into the emotional manipulation. I heard you talk about earlier the music and whatnot, and just so you're aware, I take the position that I believe that American churches, the entire thing is created to manipulate and control people from the time they pull into the parking lot to the time they leave. Um, it's all about emotion manipulating people and you know um, creating an emotional response, not necessarily a spiritual response. So I will agree with you 150% on that. But
But
as a
isn't that
street
kind of
preacher,
what
I traveled.
I
What's
feel
that?
like that's kind of what you're doing though, right? Because like I'm not saying you're out here trying to control people's lives. That might be a little extreme, but like when you say that it's a sin for people to be gay, or when you say that's a sin,
Mhm.
like how is that not controlling? Like the goal
Well,
of
because
a
I'm
Christian
not
is
gonna.
is to say, hey, you want to resist sin, but you're telling people that their sexual orientation is a sin.
Correct, but I'm not holding a gun to their head. It's not like I'm gonna go. I said I'm a street preacher, which means I preach on the public sidewalks. I don't go to people's houses. I don't go, say, hey, do this, whatever. You look, you're in America. You can do what you want as an adult. I don't agree with it. I think it's sinful, absolutely. But am I going to go there and threaten somebody for doing it? Of course not.
But why? But I still want to know why it's sinful, I guess, because I take issue with that in and of itself.
Okay.
Even if you're saying like it's a free country, whatever. Like in my opinion, it's a sexual orientation. That's not something somebody can change. It's not something they chose. So it's
Well,
no
what about the
different than
people
me
that have
saying that
changed?
like, well, hold on. Then it would be no different than
Yeah.
me saying like, hey, it's a sin to be white. Like that would be ridiculous. No one chooses to
Well,
be
but
white.
you're presupposing that homosexuality is innate and cannot change. However, that simply ignores every single person. And I have a couple people that are very big in the ex-gay movement that are now Christian. Some are Christian, some are not.
Mhm.
That would take issue with that. And the argument says, well, they're just denying themselves. And I think that's a hypocritical stance to
I
take
can't
because
speak for them. I don't know, but I
right.
can say that there's no clinical evidence that conversion therapy has ever actually worked.
Well,
There's no evidence. Hold on.
I'm not into
There
conversion
there's
therapy.
there's a bunch of evidence, however, that sexual orientation is yes, an innate thing. There are
Where's the evidence of that?
genetics. There there was a
Genetics just
study
don't prove that.
excuse me, there was a study done 2 years ago. They looked at almost a million gay people and they found that there was a genetic predisposition that played a role in homosexuality as well as something that happened with hormone washing and whatnot, hormones and everything. So things happen in utero outside of the person's choice that shape certain aspects of them. And that's what we know. Even more so, there are also clinical studies showing that twins, if you have one twin who is gay and they're separated at birth, the other twin has a higher likelihood of being gay also. How is that possible if not for something genetic?
Well, the twin studies actually there's a counter study to that as well, um, that shows the exact opposite. And actually, it's one of the arguments that a lot of you know I guess scientists that I guess lean right because I also take the position that whoever funds the research is you usually get the conclusion that they want, of whether it's right or left. Um, there are studies that counter that as well.
That's why you
And
would
my
look at
my
the methodology though, right? Like
well,
that
that's what I do. Like you gave evidence of study the other day, or maybe it wasn't the other day. I just saw it the other day about how transgenders getting surgery helps their mental health. But I don't know if you looked, but in October 2019, the American Journal of Psychiatry actually revised it and said, no, there's absolutely zero evidence that suggests that surgery does in fact help them with their mental health. So
well, I
these
can look
studies
into
get
that,
revised.
but yeah,
Yeah,
fine, but I guess yeah, we're on the subject of gay people at the moment. I would have to look into that one. But like,
that's it. Yeah,
I can find the study for you. I'm trying to find it right now about.
yeah, and you got the region study, which I'm sure most of again, I don't know your audience whether they're right, left, center, and I don't want to assume, but region, they have a study that counters that, and of course, everybody that's pro-gay, disagrees with his methodology, and then of course whatever study you're going to cite, everybody
Even
on
with
my
that,
side of the
even if
argument.
you want to neglect that twin study completely, there's still the massive study from, was it science.com or something?
There,
Hold
yeah,
on.
I know you're talking. I remember reading. Know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But again, there's nothing. Biologically, there's no. And this is what I'm waiting to see. Because again, and if it did turn out, let's say that it is genetic, but again, if it is genetic, then explain. And I would say this is a good argument for God. Explain to people that have changed their sexual orientation. Matter of fact, I got a guy here, not with me obviously, but he lives out in Washington D.C. And he was a transgender man, gay man, who had the hormones and breast implants and everything else. He was at an event where street preachers were at, and he gave his life to Christ. And you see him now compared to he was, and you wouldn't recognize the guy. So if it is genetic and he has changed his disposition completely, well, then it can't be innate. Like me being white, I can't change that no matter what. God, whether I get religious or atheist or
I
not, I
can't I
can't change the
you're
color of my
giving
skin.
me like personal experiences. Like this would be like if I said, well, I had a friend who prayed and prayed and prayed, begged God to please take him, to free his heart from this sin, stop being gay, and he couldn't resist it.
Well, I would take the argument if somebody said that, just like every other sin, there are people that tell me all the time, "Oh, I can't stop doing this. I can't stop going to pornography. I can't stop fornicating." And I say, and I disagree. And I say, well, I think you can stop. I think you don't want to stop. That's the issue.
So there's
I
no
wasn't a
way
Christian
for
my whole
the
life.
argument to be combated that what you're saying then. So like if
What do you
somebody
mean?
if somebody's gay, converts to Christ, and then turns away from that behavior, that's proof that it's not innate. But then if
No, what
somebody
I'm
is
saying is,
gay, prays, and doesn't turn away from that behavior, that just means they're still stuck in sin?
well, here's the thing. The Bible says in John 9:30 that God does not hear the prayers of sinners. He'll hear your repentance, but he will not hear your prayers. So if you're conceding, and I don't mean you personally, I'm using it in a general sense, conceding that, oh, just a sinner, I can't stop. Well, then the Bible says God doesn't hear you. So you can pray all you want, but if you in sin and don't repent, God doesn't hear you. That's what the Bible says.
Okay. I guess I would just want to get back to how exactly it's harmful
Right.
for gay people to for
Okay.
gay people to be able
Well,
to get
you
married
asked
and
why
whatnot. So I hear
yeah,
what
you
you're
asked why it was sin. You asked
right,
why it was
why it's
sin,
a
and I'll
sin, yes, and
explain.
I'm saying why is it where's the harm? And then you gave me some examples of how promiscuity might be harmful, but nothing actually
Well,
intrinsic to gay
even
people.
same sex couples that are monogamous with each other, there is still a risk of harm there. I mean,
There's a risk of harm
again,
there for monogamous straight couples as well.
right? But you don't see those. You don't see, prolapse rectums and straight couples like you do gay men. You don't see that. You don't see shigellosis infections like you do in gay men. And in talking about people that are monogamous with each other, it's still a higher risk only because of the nature of their physical, what they
Right,
do.
because of the promiscuous behavior that they're
No, I'm talking
engaging in. That's what you're saying. You're
about
saying the type of sex they're
monogamy.
or excuse me, not promiscuous behavior,
Yeah.
but the type of sex they're having
Okay.
is what's contributing to it. So this is a problem with, I guess, what? Do you have a problem with sodomy? Is it a problem with two men doing
I
sodomy? Is it okay with if a straight man and his wife commit sodomy?
I personally think it's disgusting, but I also know that there are health risks with straight people. I personally do not think that any sexual activity or anything that can cause physical harm to somebody else should be practiced. That's my personal opinion.
Wait, can you say that last thing again?
I said any physical activity that can cause harm to somebody should not be done, in my opinion.
Any
It should
activity
be
could
safe,
potentially cause harm to somebody.
like hell, right? Like sodomy, whether straight, gay, doesn't matter. There is a potential risk for infection, for all kinds of things. Like, for instance, a woman, if you have anal sex and then straight sex, there is a possibility she can get an infection that could ultimately kill her from that activity.
Wait, this could happen straight people. If the man
Right.
is no, if the man is a virgin and the woman is a virgin, there's something that can happen that her balance could get all messed up and she could get an infection like a yeast infection or some other thing that could develop simply because of engaging in sex.
Could, but I've been
So by
married.
your
I think
logic, but wait, by your logic then that should not ever take place because there's a risk of harm.
no, hell, like prolapse rectums. That is something that is, you. I don't want to get too graphic on YouTube because I
No,
don't want
I
to get you
understand
shut
what
down
you're
or
getting
anything.
at already. It's
Okay.
it sounds like you're just
I,
against, I guess, sodomy, but this isn't really gay people necessarily. What if there was a gay
oh,
couple that was, what if there was a gay couple that got married, They were virgins
Mhm.
at marriage, and they only did oral sex. There's a lot of gay couples that don't even like sodomy, that don't even do anal
It's
sex.
still wrong. I mean, it's still wrong in God's eyes, and I believe in nature's eyes, it's wrong as well. And and
Please
I'll tell
don't
you
bring
here in
up
a
the
second.
nature thing. Don't bring up the nature thing. You've
Uh,
probably seen me
why
debate this
not?
plenty because that's a
I have
really
I have
stupid
not, and
argument
I
when there's homosexual behavior we can see in nature.
well, I there's only two other species of animal that have sex for other than procreation, a bonobos monkey and a dolphin. Other than that, I mean, look at the gay penguin thing they tried saying. Oh, look at the gay penguins, and they never had intercourse, they never had sex, and as soon as a female was introduced, they forgot about each other. So
There's
again,
there's
there
over
is,
1,000 different species that will partake in homosexual or bisexual behavior
and
for
that's
all
actually
kinds
not
of
true.
reasons.
They say that two males, they had a picture once of two male lions that were kind of laying atop. They were like embracing, not embracing, but it looked like they were embracing.
No,
And
lions
of
will
course,
literally have sex with each other to strengthen the pride, my friend.
well, and I've watched that whole, and it was years ago when I saw it. I haven't seen it since. But the argument was that these two lions were gay, and it turned out they were not. Um, and I can't remember exactly what it was. It's been a long time since I actually had this debate with somebody. The nature argument. But going back to the sin thing, because that's the one thing you asked, and we haven't even discussed that yet. You asked, why did God make it a sin? And
Hmm.
I understand you don't believe in God, but you're asking me that, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So when God created male and female, he created female as man's helpmate. In Hebrew, the word helpmeet also means opposite. So man's opposite is woman. The whole point of marriage, number one, is to procreate. That's not the only purpose of it, but that is a purpose of it, to procreate. Number two is, God created male and female to be with each other, not the other way around. So therefore, anything outside of that would be a perversion of what God created male and female to be. So gay marriage is a perversion of God's creation, God's created order. So that's why
But
it's a
why,
sin.
I guess,
If
so,
you
okay, then my follow-up
okay,
question to that would be, why should I care about God's order then if gay couples, when they're married, when it's consensual, when it's legal, have successful marriages, when they are generally happy, when their likelihood of adopting kids is way higher than straight couples, they're doing a net positive for this country. How come
well, what
not following God's prescription seems to be working out?
is it working out? Because I have, and again, me being doing what I do as a street preacher, and I know you don't know me from Adams, but just to give you an example here, and I know you don't like personal experiences. However, I have traveled this country extensively over the past 5 years. Gay pride events, drag queen story hours, preaching in front of them, having people video them, and everything else. A lot of the footage you see of the grooming and some of the inappropriate behavior are video that we shot or people that we've shot. Lives of TikTok shares our stuff and whatnot. And I will say this: um, out of all the cases that we deal with, I just shut down here last year a child trafficking ring where people were dead set. And you can look up this if you want. His name is Xander Cage Bruntmeyer. It was a baby that was murdered by lesbians because
Okay,
DHS was so
do,
desperate to put gay kids in the hands. I'm sorry, not gay kids. Kids in the hands of gay people. You got the couple in
this
Atlanta,
isn't
big
true.
pride
There's
event.
multiple stories of people, of kids, of foster kids getting murdered by straight parents. I
That
listen
is
to true
true.
crime. This happens all the time. You cannot
I,
say
I
that this is
understand.
somehow evident that gay bad or that this is why we need to follow God's prescribed method of things
But
when
you don't
this
have to
happens with
follow God's
straight people
prescribed
too.
method of things. Well, you don't have to follow God's thing. You don't have to. No one's for, at least me. I'm not going to force you to do it. If you don't want to, that's fine. It's your choice.
No, no, I'm
I do
asking if
believe.
you see like the
Okay.
overall flaw in this argument. Like if you say, here's a lesbian couple that adopted this child and they viciously
Right.
murdered this kid. This is why it's not a good idea for gay people to adopt. How
No,
is it any
I'm using
different than
that
me
as
doing the
one.
same with a straight couple?
Well, you take a child, and a child, and this has been proven that needs a mother and a father to
This has
thrive.
not
That
been
is the
proven.
optimal. It has been proven. It's the optimal environment.
Can I ask
Uh, you
who's
know,
proven this? Because
oh
kids, if you
gosh,
compare their
I mean,
academic abilities, their economic well-being, their general well-being, mental health, they do
well,
just as well, if not better, than their peers raised by straight parents.
Well, and then you listen to the people at the Supreme Court when they brought up the studies, during Obergefell, and they cited the studies that showed that kids from same-sex couples are more likely to drop out of school, more likely to turn to drugs, more likely to be gay
No,
themselves.
no,
I mean, those
no.
are
You
studies that
now
are
you don't know what you're talking about because this was the 2012 study that was so fucking bad. Even the fucking publisher literally had to issue an apology and revoked the study. That study looked at kids who were raised by straight parents, where one of the parents left the marriage to go pursue a gay relationship. Of course, that would damage a family. That would
I'm not
damage a
talking about that
child.
one. How many witnesses were at the Obergefell thing that testified of them, that were with were raised by lesbians
I
or
don't
gay
know, but I
people
know that the study you're talking about is a really laughable one that
not that
everybody
one.
makes fun
I'm not
of.
talking,
There's multiple
I'm not talking
better
about that one.
studies that have tracked decades, and they've found nothing to indicate that kids raised by gay parents fare worse.
Well, there's studies that counter that too. Like I said, in 2015, Obergefell, I was there I was there at the hearing, and if you listen to the arguments, and obviously you're not gonna do that right this second, there were lots of things introduced in 2015 which suggested and showed that that kids do fare worse. So, and I think you and I can concede at
Like
least, no
what?
matter what we do, you're going to find studies for your position. I'm going to find studies that support mine. Can we
No,
at least
the study
concede
that
that?
you brought up to support your position is a
No,
joke study that everybody thinks is a joke. The studies that
there's more
I'm
than
referencing are actual long-term, overall, multiple different studies compiled. That's why I'm finding it right now to show you.
yeah. Yeah, I'm on my phone outside, so I can't really look it up. And like I said, it's been a long time, and I wasn't planning on coming on your thing today at all. I just saw you pop up there, and my initial comment was that I was. I don't know if you've ever talked to a street preacher before. I know you talked to a lot of church-going Christians. I don't know if you ever actually engaged with a street preacher. Um, doing
No,
what
not
we do.
really.
And my first, okay, I don't know if it's just because street preachers aren't on your radar or what, but I had said to you, my initial comment on your channel was, I'm the first American to be threatened with jail time for posting Bible verses. And that, I guess that caught your attention. And a few of your, I can't see your chat now because when I go on YouTube, it echoes real bad. I don't know if there's something to that, but that's why I had to pause your video.
Okay.
But a lot of people are asking for context in that. And I want to give you the context of that and tell you this is why it's a problem in this country with a lot of far left and activists and whatnot. So I went on Facebook. And it was after I preached a pride event in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, where we uncovered a trafficking ring, a DHS ring. Woman was working for DHS, where she actually also simultaneously owned a group home, where she was having kids and pushing LGBT stuff on them, and then she was recruiting gay people and taking these kids from her group home and putting them into foster families, where one child's arm was broken and another child was dead. I told you about earlier. So we uncovered that she got fired and all that stuff and whatever. After that, however, I posted 2 Bible verses about same-sex marriage, and I said that Matthew 18:6, which I don't know if you know the verse off the top of your head,
I
but
don't
it
know.
says, those who cause one of these little ones to stumble, it's better for them to have a millstone around their neck, right? I posted that verse and I said, since they get so triggered about that, how do they feel about Romans chapter 1, verse 32? And that's all I said.
Which
Two
one is
lesbians.
that? Is that how homosexuals won't inherit the kingdom of God?
No, it says they're worthy of death.
Homosexuals are?
Yes, homosexuals, those who support them are worthy of death. And I
So
always
see,
say, with how do they?
but do you see like the issue? So before you even go any further, like you said you don't want to control anybody's lives. And I get that like
I
you
don't.
yourself are not going up to someone's door and being like, you need to live your life this way. But you think that people existing as gay are worthy of death. Like, do you realize how extreme that is?
Well, do you think that pedophiles are worthy of death?
Do you think that all gay people are pedophiles?
No.
Okay, so then why don't you just target pedophiles and people that abuse children? Why don't
Well,
you just target
well,
child
I do.
molesters?
I do, absolutely. There's people sitting in jail right now because of what we've done, what we do. But and again, when you look at the numbers, and I know you're going to disagree, and you might cuss me out on this. I don't care, but most pedophiles are gay. Not all gays are pedophiles, but most pedophiles are gay. That's a fact. A man, and I heard you argue this on one of your videos. And this is where the Arsenal Coite argument came up. A male who likes males is gay. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
No, there
If a
there
male,
is. Like
if a man,
this is such a cheesy understanding. So first of all, like if you look at how the FBI profiles child abusers, pedophiles, child molesters, all these things, there is a difference. There are some people, for example, that are actually attracted to having a power and a control over another person. This is why the FBI talks about how a lot of child molesters will also molest and abuse old people. They don't care if the child is a boy or a girl. They will just take advantage of the power dynamics. This has literally been documented by the fucking FBI, my friend.
And and just and I can't say much more than this, but I do work with FBI on a lot of things when it comes to child molestation, both male and female. There are women that molest children too. But overwhelmingly, it is male men that go after boys.
And I'm telling you right now, though, that a man who just molests a little boy does not by default mean that man's gay.
It does mean he's gay.
No, it
He's
doesn't.
gay.
It could be that he's attracted to the power and control over another person, and he's taking his sick desires out on a child because that's who he can easily, who's most accessible to him at the moment. For example, do you think in prisons when like gang rapes happen, do you think all those men that partake in that gang become gay the minute that they rape another man?
No, but do you know what? Do you know gang in prison isn't as prevalent as a lot of people think it is? But do you know why they do? Who do they do that to? Usually, it's child molesters, rapists, things like that.
Wait, but they're doing it to another man.
Right.
So they're having sex with. Wait. So if a child molester abuses a boy, that guy by default's gay. But if a man rapes another man in prison, that guy by default isn't gay. You see how this doesn't follow, right?
If you're a man and you have sex with a male, that's gay. I don't know how anybody could say it's not. I don't care if it's a male.
You just said it wasn't in prison with gang.
The act itself is gay. Correct. I mean, a man.
Does it mean okay? Yes, of course, it's a gay act. Does it mean that they are gay?
Well, I'm sure and well, I'm not going to go there with you. I don't want to do that. But I'm saying this: no matter what happens, a man is not going to. How do I say this without being graphic?
Are you just not going to answer my question?
What was your question? I'm sorry.
My question was, if somebody abuses a little boy, and that by default means that guy's gay because he abused a little boy, in prison, when gang rape takes place, the men that rape another man, are those men gay?
I would say that they're probably bisexual, because how do you get turned on by another man if you're not gay or attracted to males?
This is why you're lacking nuance, my friend, because there's
Not
the
really.
power dynamic you're missing. There's a huge fucked up thing with a lot of predators and abusers with power. They want to take full power and control over another person.
In some cases, absolutely. I'm not going to argue that and say that's not true at all. Of course it is. I mean,
So isn't it possible then that there's could be somebody who would abuse a boy but not be gay, just want to take advantage of the power?
I think it's probably both. Because again, how does somebody get sexually stimulated by a male if you're not gay or at least bisexual?
Because
it
it's
doesn't
the
make any sense.
power dynamic. What do the same people that will abuse little boys will sometimes abuse elderly women? How do you get turned on by an old woman? It's the power dynamic. It's the fact that they're taking power over another person.
And I do agree with that. There are people, like I say, they say rape isn't a sex crime; it's about power. I mean, that's what they claim a lot of times. But and I think culture, tries to redefine things, especially in this case, to protect the LGBT, because they don't want to say, hey, they make up 3% of the population. Yet, even if you take that out of there, they commit 40% of child molestation cases.
They don't. The majority of child molestations are actually committed by men who are in heterosexual marriages.
Right. But I'm saying, if you look at the 3% of population that commits 40% of child molestation cases, that demographic right there, that disparity should shock everybody.
Because you're saying that demographic is all made up of gay people, which is not true. It's made up of straight people too, who are fucked up and take advantage of children.
I'm taking that part out because again, when you look at the Catholic priests that molest boys, the Catholic Church, hey, 80% of them were gay. I'm talking about just the straight numbers, 3%, 40% child molestation. I believe it's much higher because those numbers are not being calculated in that figure.
You're making things up. You're making that up. You're saying, yes, you are. You're saying this large chunk of people is gay, which is not true.
I'll have it in I have a whole lot of these studies here in my notes on my phone here. Just for that, of secular source, by the way, not necessarily Christian, because I know most atheists, and I'm not saying you, most atheists reject any study done by a Christian.
I mean, not necessarily. It would just depend.
I
know there's one person particularly that was very, very prominent in publishing a lot of now long dismiss data about gay people being pedophiles, and it was
You're
all
talking about
based.
the region,
I think it is. I don't remember the name, but okay, hold
the
on.
region study where they went after his methodology, saying, "Oh, you did this," and then he had to redo it, and you know, and again, the only people that blasted it were the people that supported homosexuality. They're the only ones that blasted it. So that's what I was trying to tell you before is you and I could cite studies back and forth, and you'll find studies to back you up, and I'll find studies to back me up. And I will say this: I'm not really a big studies guy on a lot of things, some things, not everything, because I believe that the people that are paying for the studies, they're basically paying to get the results they want, regardless of whether it's Republican, Democrat, left, right, gay, straight, doesn't matter. I do believe in a lot of cases that's what's happening, and that's why you have studies that'll support my position
Do you think
and
the
studies that support
Child
your position.
Molestation Research and Prevention Institute is just like a biased thing? Because it notes that 90% of child molesters target children in their network of family and friends, and the majority are men married to women.
Right? But how many gay men are married to women that leave their wives because I'm gay now? Happens a lot. I
The
don't think being
studies, by the
married is
way, that I was talking about that have been dismissed are something by Timothy J. Daly and something by
I don't
Paul
know.
Cameron.
Yeah, I don't know that one. I was talking about the region study, which was John. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. The one that so you're talking about there, I can't recall that one off the top of my head.
Okay,
Um,
I mean, I'm reading right here, like,
yeah, I'm trying to pull up here. I've got so many different things looking through because I'm talking to my phone at the same time as I'm looking this up. I saved a whole bunch of uh, links to studies from psychology and colleges and whatnot that are secular. It's just I have to find them because I wasn't prepared
it's okay. You don't,
to come on.
it's not even, you don't need to worry about it. It's just at the end of the day, this whole
There,
thing is built on the assumption that if a man abuses a little boy, he must therefore be gay, which is just not true. It is deeply flawed, misses a bunch of nuance, and leads you to this negative conclusion that gay people are disproportionately pedophiles.
well, but they are though. I mean, are you going to say that the Catholic priests that molested those boys were straight men, or they could have been straight
Yes, a
men when
lot of
they?
them were, dude. You don't obviously understand the effects of someone when they're like repressed and then have a power dynamic.
Sure, I do. I wasn't a Christian my whole life, and I'll spare you my life story. But I didn't become a Christian until I was an adult, after the military and everything else, and what happened as a kid. So, believe me, I understand what it's like to be oppressed. You have no idea my background.
No, repressed, like your sexual desires are being repressed, and then there's this power dynamic. I don't think that all the Catholic priests that committed those abuses and those terrible things were gay.
Well, the Catholic Church disagrees with you. They say that they're 80%, 80, not all of them. They say 80% of them were gay, 20% were straight, is what they're saying.
Okay. Yeah, this is
That's what the
probably
Catholic
all
Church is
built
saying.
on the exact same crap, which is just that if a man abuses a boy, he's gay, which is not true. So
Well, the only people that the only people that disagree are again the people that support homosexuality disagree that
the
with
FBI
me. The
disagrees
people
with
that
you.
well, the FBI that I work with, a lot of the times will say things that they got to be careful what they say publicly because of the LGBT mob.
Okay, well,
And I
the
do work with FBI.
FBI in 1994, before the woke LGBT mob, had a whole report published on child predators where they distinguished between the different
Right,
types
because
of
they
child molesters. There's the fixated child molester, stereotypical pedophile, and a lot of these people cannot be considered homosexual or even heterosexual because they find adults of either sex repulsive.
well, like I said, I think if a male is sexually attracted to a male of any age, they're gay. I mean, that's what being gay is. And if
Okay.
a man is attracted to a little girl, he's straight, but he's still a pervert and he deserves to be put to death as well.
Okay. Yeah, I just think that this flawed assumption that you're building this on that is not supported by anything literally
Well,
is
it is.
leading
I
you
mean,
to
obviously,
label a group
I
of
didn't pull it out
people
of,
as pedophiles, say they're worthy of death, even though what the numbers actually show is kids raised by gay parents do quite well. Gay people are more
and
likely to adopt. They're doing a benefit and a positive for society. They're not harming anybody. But you're saying they should
well,
be put to
they
death.
have to adopt because they can't have children. They're denying a child a mother or a father, the benefit of a mother or a
They're
father.
not denying
But
it. These kids have already been denied that. They're in the foster care system.
yeah, I was in the foster care as my kid too, and um,
Well, it shows, my
but we
friend,
see things.
because honestly, I think the less people
It
that
shows.
are turn out like you, the better.
Well, you don't know. You really don't know that.
All right. Adios.
If you want to support the channel, please consider becoming a member today. Members get early access to videos, access to all the stream VODs, and exclusive access to emotes as well. So if you'd like to support the channel, become a member today.